Welcome to this session on operations management. In this session, we will discuss about forecasting methods which are usually used in operations management. We all know planning is the first phase of management. What is planning? Planning is deciding upon the course of action. Now, this forecasting method which we are going to discuss here in this operations management session is usually considered as the most important step or the important part or important phase of the planning operation or the planning function rather. Usually this forecasting method is the first step in planning. Let us see what is forecasting, how this forecasting method is beneficial to organizations, what are the different classifications of forecasting methods, and how these forecasting methods make use of the various qualitative and quantitative data that is accumulated, that is available, and are there any methods to judge whether a particular forecasting method that we have adopted in terms of accuracy is best suited for me or for the organization or not. Or in other words, are there any methods to find out which forecasting method should be selected over the other? Yes, we will discuss about that also. So overall, in this module, in this particular series of lessons of module 2, we will be discussing about forecasting methods in operations management in general. Now the first question, what is forecasting? Now, forecasting is the first step in planning. Usually the first step in planning is forecasting. It is defined as estimating the future demand for products and services and also the resources necessary to produce these outputs. The forecasting is not only about estimating the future demand for products and services, there are also estimation of the resources required to produce these outputs. We have seen tangible goods called products, intangible goods called as services, and we have also seen the different resources, that is human resource, materials, machines, the finance or the money, different methods that you utilize. So all these things need to be estimated for you to create outputs, and these outputs are the products and services. So forecasting is not usually just directed towards the products and services, but also towards the resources necessary to produce these outputs. There are also the estimates of future demand for products and services. Now, if they are treated as estimates, if they are considered as estimates of future demand, then they are called as sales forecasts or demand forecasts. That is, if you are forecasting about the availability of requirements, that is availability of customer requirements, that is demand, then we call them as sales forecasts or the demand forecasts. Forecasts can be long range, medium range or short range depending upon the time horizon. So usually an organization needs to take decisions regarding the demand, maybe for a short range, long range or medium range, as we have already discussed during our previous session on decision making. Strategic decisions usually involve long range planning. Operating decisions usually medium or short term, medium range or short term, and similarly control decisions, day-to-day decisions sometimes on a day-to-day basis, that is on a short range. Again, we have specified that there is no hard and fast rule that there is a time limit which can be set for long range, medium range and short range. This depends upon the industry and the organization. So usually a few weeks may be short range, say 1 to 2 years could be medium range, and anything above 2 years or anything above 5 years. So these things are all relative to each other. When I say long range, medium range and short range, you don't have a hard and fast rule that this is the time frame for which I can say that it is long range, medium range or short range. Correct? Say for a perishable good, a short range time could be just hours, few hours. Correct. Similarly, for a long range, similarly for say a thing which can be stored, so which can be stored and can be reused, which has higher shelf life, no, bench life. Correct. Now, these products when they are stored, they also take into account this time horizon. Similarly, demands say for some organizations say a long range time could be above 5 years, whereas for some other organizations this 5 year term could be a medium range time horizon. So different organizations look it into different ways. So let us not now strictly classify them. For all purposes, we will consider up to 1 year as short term or short range, or maybe below 1 year as short range. Anything above 1 to 2 is medium, and anything above 2 years is long range. So within 1 year, short range, 1 to 2 medium, and above 2 years is long range. So let us stick to that particular nomenclature. Long range forecasting. Some examples could be new product lines. You are estimating about new product lines, so that could be long range forecasting. Forecasting about the existing old product lines or something that has been temporarily stopped and you want to forecast it, whether the old product line can be renewed, re-energized. So that could be a long range forecasting. Factory capacities, whether my factory capacities now, I have now a production capacity of 2000 tons per year, 2000 tons per year. Now should I modify it? Should I increase my capacity because I'm anticipating a boost in the sales of my product? That is a long range forecasting. Capital funds, about money required for my future expansion plans. Facility needs, do I require an additional production facility because I'm expecting a boost? As I told you, maybe I'm expecting in 2 to 3 years time the requirement for the product that I'm offering. Maybe the new software which I'm developing could be huge, so I may require more trained people, I may require more resources. Do I need to now plan for more facility? That could be a long range forecasting issue. Now these operations managers need long range forecasts to make strategic decisions about products, processes and facilities. For example, in long range forecasting, if I talk about say ventilation systems, for example, which comprises of your all your say the HVAC segment where even ventilation comes into picture. You have different types of air coolers, different types of exhaust fans. You have the normal domestic fans which you use, circulating fans, and you have back filters, the dust removing equipment, scrubbers, etc. Now when you consider this entire section or entire group product line as a ventilation product or ventilation related product, then that long range forecasting will be for that particular unit as a whole. For example, entire product range of say ventilation systems, correct, or entire product line of say medicines for say common cold, for example, correct. Now these are some of the examples for long range forecasting. The product group in a broad range, when you are talking about an entire product range and forecasting in the long range, in the long run, for a longer time horizon, that is long range forecasting. Now when we come to medium range forecasting, these products which I said, ventilation systems for example, they comprise of different categories of or groups of uh, products. In the entire ventilation sector, you have different types of products. It could be fans, it could be back filters, it could be in fans. You can have exhaust fans, you can have domestic fans which you are using for for your individual purpose, consumer purpose, correct. So product groups, the entire product line is now divided into product groups and specific forecasting for specific product groups, that is medium range. Departmental capacities, for example, the first long range forecasting in terms of say an educational institution could be to upgrade an existing laboratory, bring in a new lab and research center. That could be a long range forecasting. In medium range, if that has to be realized, I need to now have scheduling, I need to have some allotments, some allocations, some departmental capacities have to be rescheduled. So this becomes a medium range forecasting issue now. So medium range, again, the term long range, medium range and short range refer to the time horizon as well as specific duties. See, for example, here in medium range, it becomes more specific now, narrows down. It narrows down to departmental capacities. Similarly, workforce, depending upon the workforce required. The purchased materials, these are some examples. Purchased materials, inventories, again, the raw materials, the work in progress, the finished goods. Do I require or should I change my purchasing policy? Should I bring in an extra storage system, an extra warehouse? Should I rent an extra storage system or a warehouse or a depot to store my inventories? Correct? So medium range forecasts are usually used to group products into product families. If I say HVAC as a product line, in that a product family of say exhaust fans could be one product family. So I'm now talking about say air coolers or exhaust fans, something like that. Correct? Next, short range. Here you can see here it's now getting narrowed down to specific products now. Specific products. Short range forecasting for specific products. What is my strategy? What is my forecasting? What is my estimation for the demand of specific products? For the entire product line, HVAC might be now in a boom, in a good shape, in a good, may have a very good demand. But within that, I need to now find out which of these products, in which of the individual products coming into that particular product line is actually contributing towards this success, and which is doing bad, which is doing well. If whichever is doing bad can be re-energized, can be refined. Correct. I need to put in more effort now to certain areas, certain products which are not doing well. Correct. So specific products in the product line. Labor skill classes, the operating class, the labor class, again because of changing social economic conditions, again the availability of labor again is affected because of this. Because of this COVID, most of these labor class people are now going to their hometown. Correct. So availability in some states is almost nil now. Labor is almost nil in some. If there is an emergency now for the requirement of some labor class now it's very difficult to get labor. Correct. Because of this unfortunate this COVID crisis, most of them have gone home. Correct. Next, machine capacities. Depending upon machine capacity, so I have to forecast now. So I need to make a plan now. Tomorrow, because of some situation, when I require labor, if the labor is not available, so I should make some arrangements for that. Similar machine capacities. If my factory capacity is going to increase, I need to add in more machines, or I need to increase the capacity of the available machines. Correct. Cash required for day-to-day transactions. Correct. Inventories, again inventories come here also. Inventories, day-to-day basis, my product flows from a stores, goes to the production department, gets processed, and the output again has to come back to my stores and get stored in a different section. That is an output, that is the finished good. Forecasting related to that. So short range forecasts are usually used to focus on specific products such as air cooler model 2323. This is just an hypothetical example that is given. So first we said HVAC as a whole, then we talked about individual product and air coolers in medium range, and now in short range, in air cooler product family, which specific model of air cooler? Model 2323. This is just given randomly, this number, just to make you understand. So this 2323 is the model number. So within that air cooler family, specifically to a particular model 2323. So these are some of the examples where short range forecasting is can be seen as these examples which I showed can be viewed as short range forecasting examples. Now, classifications of forecasting methods. Now let us see what are the different classifications of forecasting methods. The different classifications based on time frame you have already seen: long range, medium range and short range, depending upon the time horizon. Now we will discuss about the classifications of forecasting methods based on the methods or the methodology. Basically, we can classify forecasting methods first into qualitative methods. Let us see what qualitative methods are. These methods are based on judgments about causal factors that underlie the sales of a particular product or service. These methods are purely judgmental and opinion based. They do not take into account historical data or printed or available recorded data. They are just based on some judgments or about some causal factors. Causal factors here refer to something was the cause and there was an effect because of that cause. You study that causal factor and then based on the judgment or the opinion, you assume that the sales of this particular product or services will be similar to that. Something that has happened and you judge it on your own. It's purely judgmental. That's why it's called qualitative. No quantitative, no numbers are associated. You're not basing your judgments based on any numbers or on some proven records. Correct? So that is qualitative methods. They are also based on opinions about relative likelihood of these causal factors being present in the future. So causal factor, some factors which led to a particular effect, you are assuming now that there is a relative likelihood it's likely to happen again, and that's why you are actually translating that to the present period. Correct? These methods may involve several levels of sophistication, from scientifically conducted opinion surveys to intuitive hunches about future events. So this will involve sophistication from some opinion surveys of some scientifically conducted opinion surveys, which means not it's not a crude method, but then you make a survey, you prepare a questionnaire and get some feedback from the customers. Of course, it can be through interviews, it could be through some recordings, it could be through feedback form, it could be through just a formal or an informal chat. So whatever opinion you get through word of mouth or through say written record, that is based on the questions that you asked. Correct? Or it could also be something related to a hunch. Hunch here is a very crude term, a guesswork. Sometimes you go by gut feeling. Sometimes they may not in the long run be very productive, but sometimes it works. If it is short term, it will work, but in the long run it might not usually work. So because the customer opinions will also change over a period of time. A customer himself or herself today may say, yes, I would like to have your product, but the next day might change his opinion. Could be different reasons, human psychology one, or might have a belief in others' opinion than yourself. That's a common thing which we usually do. No, that's not the right way to do, but that's not the right way. Most of us go by what others say. No, that's not the right way. You do your own study, your homework, do a small research on anything that you want. You want to buy a television, you want to buy a washing machine, you want to buy a laptop, do a study or on your own. Correct? Take opinions from others. I'm not taking, don't take opinions, take opinions from others, but then you can have your own factor rating, you can have your own system of working, you can have your own assessment and then judge or make an assessment. That might not be the right choice, but at least at the end of the day, you might you will be happy that you actually listen to your own voice. Correct? Now this, but is there any quantitative basis for that? No, you're doing it on your own. Correct? You're doing it on your own. How many times do we actually take opinions when we buy something? Sometimes we go by our gut feeling. Correct? Gut feeling. Correct? Now in qualitative methods, what it says is intuition or intuitive hunches about future events, or they are done through scientifically conducted opinion surveys. Now these may not be in the long run very productive or very successful, But then short term, yes, sometimes they do get the work done. They will be these forecasting methods, especially when it's on a day-to-day basis, when the demand is not fluctuating much, correct? Then this might work, correct? Let us see them in detail one by one as we go along. The second classification is the quantitative methods. In qualitative methods, we saw that it is purely judgmental and opinion oriented. In quantitative methods, we are using mathematical models based on historical data. The actual situation, whatever is the actual situation, is first studied. Then based on that, we make a mathematical model or convert the existing situation into a mathematical model. Mathematical model here could be in terms of a mathematical equation, or it could be a program based on some mathematical considerations. Some amount of constraints can also be added to that to make it more, the validation of this, again, as I told you, now this is a very vast topic. Quantitative methods is a very vast topic. Operations research is a subject which usually uses these mathematical models. So problem solving, we have a operations research which is a mathematical technique in which you use mathematical models to solve problems or to make decisions, right? Now they assume past data which are relevant to the future. So first, quantitative methods, first point, mathematical models based on historical data. Then they assume that the past data are relevant to the future. What's the striking difference between qualitative and quantitative method here is, here there is past data available, whereas in qualitative you are not taking into consideration the past data, but in quantitative, historical data or past data are taken into account. Now the accuracy of forecasts can be determined by comparing the actual and the forecast values. All the recorded forecast values as well as the actual values of previous time horizon can be compared, and you can find out whether the method that you are using is accurate or not, or to what level of accuracy are they matching, or to what accuracy level do the selected forecasting method stick to. That can be estimated. A time series is a set of observed values measured over successive time periods. Over a period of time, you have an observed value, list of observed values or measured values. You can make a time series. You can set up a pattern for these values and then transfer this particular pattern into the future and get a forecast. So that is the technique in which these quantitative methods work. So we will see one by one as we get along. We will see what are the different types of qualitative and quantitative methods. The different types of qualitative methods, we again come back to qualitative, the judgmental methods. The first one is the educated guess. Educated guess, as the name suggests, this is made when one person uses his or her best judgment based on experience and intuition. Say a manager of a convenience store, a manager of a trading concern or day-to-day trading, for example shops, what do they do? Based on today's sales, they estimate to tomorrow's sales. Today, if I had a sale of say 100 units of a particular product category A, I will assume that tomorrow also I will have the same sales, or probably I will add say 1% extra to that. There is no quantitative basis of forecasting. I just make an educated guess, not a crude guess, an educated guess, because over a period of time I know today there is a demand for a particular product, correct? Now schools are opening, say notebooks for example, uniform, rainy season, umbrellas, raincoats, etc. Correct? Something is causing the increase in sales. There is no record of that, but it's an intuition which is taken into account, and a guess is made, an educated guess is made. The trading concern or the convenience store manager, he or she makes an educated guess and predicts that yes, tomorrow, yes, whatever I have sold today, the same amount I will again procure. I'll ask the supplier to produce me the same tomorrow. Tomorrow also this will be my demand. It may not end up to be the same demand tomorrow, but again based on tomorrow's what's actuals, the next day's forecast will be made. So subsequently, the next day's forecast will be the actual sales of the or actual demand of the previous day plus some uh, small amount, or maybe the same. It could be the same or some small amount based on the intuition of the shopkeeper or the concerned. Right? Next is the executive committee consensus. An executive committee is set up. And this committee, what they will do, they will sit together and arrive at a decision. There may be lots of opinions, lots of sharing of information, opinions, yeses, no's, yes, no, yes, no, that is right, no, I don't agree. All these things will happen, but in the end, a consensus will be reached amongst the experts, and then finally, demand estimation will be done, and that will be released as a forecast. Correct? That is next. The Delphi method, Delphi or Delphi method. So in Delphi method, what is happening here is similar to the executive committee consensus. This is again a committee where consensus is sought out, but here the executives anonymously answer a series of questions on successive rounds. Anonymously. So one person will not know who is the other person in the committee. He knows that there are 6 committee members or 10 committee members, maybe whatever it is, number of people, number of committee. But one person usually does not know who the other person is. So there is less of influence. There is no less of domination here. You are not able to influence or dominate because you don't know who the other person is. Correct? Similar to executive committee, but here in Delphi method, all the feedback is done, or all the questions are answered anonymously by the members. Right? And finally, a consensus is reached and is relayed, and a forecast is made. Correct? Next is the survey of sales force. Here in survey of sales force, the sales force, that is the team of salesperson who are actually in contact with the customer, finally it's a sales force. So these estimates of future regional sales are obtained from individual members of the sales force. These are combined to form an estimate for the sales of all regions. So that way we can have a forecast for the next season, next quarter, or the next time frame or time horizon. Survey of customers. Now the survey of sales force is different here. The survey of customers is different. Here directly the customers are asked. Estimates of future sales are obtained directly from the customers. Individual customers surveyed to determine what quantities of the firm products they intend to purchase. And this method is usually preferred by companies that have relatively few customers, because if it's a mass demand, that's number of customers are too high, it's very difficult to do a survey. But when the customers are limited, when the customers are very limited, maybe do industrial products, machinery, etc., where it's institutional sales, some sort of survey can be done, and most companies do it, survey of customers. Next, historical analogy or case study. Or historical analogy means comparison with a previous occurrence or previous situation. So this method, what do we do in this method? You compare a similar occurrence or situation which has happened before, then compare what is happening today, and just go through the historical analogy. That is, knowledge of one's product sales during various stages of its product life, for example, is applied to the estimate of the sales of a similar product. Or this method also, there is an estimation of the future sales of a particular product by looking at a similar product which is already there in the market. So your comparison, case study of a similar product you do and apply it to the present case which you are handling. So comparison, historical analogy means you are comparing a previous occurrence with the present one. Market research. So in market survey, questionnaires questionnaires were mailed or passed on to the customers, etc. Telephone interviews, similar to your previous the survey of sales force. A market research is done. Market research can even be done before the product is actually introduced into market. Again and again, I'm repeating it again. We also repeated it in your previous sessions. The actual idea of a product comes from the customer, correct? So right from the requirement phase, whether the customer requires the product or not, correct, that can be gained, that view or that particular feedback can be gained through market research. So this market research is again a very important point, which is a very important qualitative method technique. Let us see some quantitative methods. The first method is linear regression. We'll have separate sessions on this because we'll be focusing more on quantitative methods. So one by one, all these methods will be discussed in detail. I'll just go through it now. Just note down. First is linear regression. Second is the moving average, the weighted moving average, exponential smoothing, and exponential smoothing with trend. So these are some of the quantitative methods, the details of which will be discussed in the subsequent sessions.